Well, thank you everyone for watching or listening today. Today I have a very, very special guest, James Mcsweeney, the man they call the Sledgehammer, a veteran of MMA and kickboxing. This man has actually competed for pretty much all of the major MMA promotions on earth, including the UFC, One Championship, KSW, Cage Rage, BAMA, and many more. Has also competed extensively in kickboxing, both Western style and Muay Thai as well. Has won multiple titles in that as well, British, Dutch, European, and world titles. Trained with Alistair Overeem and his brother, as well as Tyrone Spong and many other legendary fighters at the Lucien Carbon gym. Who's trained over 49 world champions, I believe. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was that many. James has taken on some of the greatest fighters from around the world, absolute legendary who's who hit list of names. And last but not least, has also competed in bare knuckle boxing as well for Valor, which is Ken Shamrock's bare knuckle company. So, Champ, I just want to say, obviously, a big thank you for coming on, and a big thank you for making the time, mate. I appreciate
My pleasure.
it.
Thanks for having me on. Nice pleasure to be on. So it's all good.
Brilliant. So with your last fight, obviously Glory Kickboxing as well, absolutely fantastic fight. Gokhan Saki, another legend of the game. You know, two legends really collided in that fight. Now, obviously, the fight didn't go your way in the end with leg kicks, and obviously, you know what happened. But I would like to talk about that fight from both aspects of the fight that you thought went well, and obviously in the end what went wrong and resulted in the stoppage. So could you just walk us through your reflections from that fight? Obviously, a few weeks on from it, please.
Well, it's always hard when you get a change of opponent last minute. But to be honest, I've never been one to like. I've won fights, I've lost fights, right? So it's not like I've never been one for excuses or making any like. I'm the fighter. We went out there, we had our fight. He had his game plan, I had my game plan. When I look back on the fight, I didn't really know kind of what exactly happened. It's always hard when you fight, right? It's like, you're in the moment, but then when you go back at the end of it, I say, "Oh, how did the fight?" You're like, "I don't know. I just know how it ended, you know, or how it started." Like there's no the in between bit is very hard to remember. So I had to watch the fight over and over again to get the idea of what happened. And there were some inside things that personally went wrong, leading on the day of the fight, which was a little bit frustrating. But that's like kept inside the circle. But to be honest, stylistically, the game plan originally was to fight Plazabat. Plazabat is more of a boxer than he is a kicker. So our whole game plan for the whole training camp of like, I had a 16-week training camp, so I had a long camp, was really about being low center of gravity, staying really low, striking in, coming up and under Plazabat because he's a bigger guy than me. And it was about staying pressure on him and putting him back and allowing my kicks to do the job and my knees, and not boxing him too much, let him kind of box, but pressuring him on the inside. Then, of course, the fight got changed to Saki, who's the actual reverse. He's a shorter guy, smaller guy, one of the best kickers in the world. So it's a way different characteristic. So in the last, we had 2 weeks notice to change with Saki. I got the opportunity. I said, yes, I'll take the fight. So we only had 2 weeks till the fight. So that's only really 1 week of solid training. 1 week before the fight is kind of like game plan stuff. So we had to make some adjustments. The adjustments that I made, to be honest, were kind of working in round one. The game plan for round one was to pressure Saki, not do too much, to be honest, allow him to punch and do all the stuff that he likes to do, and just pressure him and let him tire himself out, because we knew he had a very minimal training camp. So I didn't think his conditioning was going to be too high. So I thought, okay, pressure him round one. I didn't care if I lost round one. I was more intent to go into round two and start to pressure him, and then if it was going to go so far, into round three. To be honest, he threw a couple of low kicks in round one on the front leg, and I checked them nicely. It hit me in the knee, and I know it damaged him. I saw the reaction, and he stopped throwing his right leg completely. I watching the fight, I don't remember during the fight if he landed any left kicks on me on the leg. But watching the fight, I saw he did in the first round, but I didn't feel him. There wasn't a problem. It wasn't like, oh, damn, man, I better be careful. A couple more of those, I'm in trouble. I just didn't feel it. So it wasn't that bad. I did my game plan. He was definitely fatigued in round one. Went back to my corner. This is where the problem kind of lies, is that I didn't adjust the game plan 2 in the second round. that is when I really should have started to pressure a bit more, let my hands go, let my kicks go. And I think because he broke my nose, it was subconsciously, I wasn't pressuring as much as I should have been. So I was kind of hanging out in that middle range rather than in the red range or out in the green range where he can't touch me. So, yeah, and to be honest, fair play to Saki. He adjusted his game plan. He found the back leg. Because I was so low, I could check the front leg, but it was delayed to try and check the back leg because my stance was so low in my initial game plan. So he found a kink in the armory. And then all of a sudden, like he landed one leg kick. And I remember thinking like, fuck, that's a problem. And I think I had one more burst at him. And then he landed a leg kick then and I went down. So then it was like, shit, this is a problem. Now I know this is a problem. I get up, I'm okay. I really need to push into him, and I try to push off the leg, and there was no strength in it. It was just dead to the bone. I survived a couple of little entourages, and then I think I made a punch, and he just kicked underneath, and it just tapped it out from underneath me. I tried to get up, and it collapsed. And yeah, like I said, he was a better guy on the night. He adjusted the game plan, and I did not. And so therefore, it's my error and my mistake, and I paid the price.
Yeah, it's a fantastic insight into the good, the highs and lows of that fight, because there definitely were both. It's a good insight into it. Now, obviously, when it comes to competing in Glory again, I know it's only been a few weeks since the fight, so you're probably taking some time to rest up, recharge, take some time out, whatever. But when it comes to future fights, I have seen posts, where you were sort of saying you'd be back and what have you on your Instagram. Is there anyone in particular that you would be targeting for your return, specifically with Glory, or are you just sort of taking it as it comes? What's the situation with that side?
I've heard they've got, I haven't heard directly from Glory. I just know they've got a big show coming up in February. I would be more than happy to fight on that show in February. I've had some treatment on my leg. The first week I couldn't have any treatment. It was just twice the size, every color come out you could imagine. And my nose was pretty badly bloke in two places. I couldn't get it reset. They want to re-drill it, which I'm not going to do until after I retire. I've had that observation before. It makes it a bit more fragile. So this week I had 2 weeks off training. The second week I started to do stretching, getting treatment, massage, ice baths, getting all the swelling out. I have full manipulation of the leg now, whereas before I couldn't really bend it. All the swelling's gone down, thankfully. And yeah, I feel like I could be easily ready for February. I've already started training Monday, as if I have a training camp coming. I really want to be ready. There's some adjustments that I'm making to myself personally, size-wise. These guys are giants. There were some smaller guys around. Saki's a kind of smaller guy. Plazabat wasn't that big before. He was having around about the 110, 111 kilo mark. Now he's 122. Benji's big. Jamal's big. I mean, Rico's big. All these guys are 120 plus. So there's, to be, I think for myself to be around 118 kilo. I've pulled that off before when I fought against I fought an Iranian guy a couple of years ago in K1. I was 118 then. I still felt fast. I was powerful, and I couldn't be bullied around the ring too much. So I think that weight would be better for me. Yeah, so there's some adjustments to be made, and I'm making them. So yeah, I don't really have I don't know. I just think it comes back from when you get to this kind of level, you don't really have a choice on who you fight. They're going to tell you, hey, we got this fight for you. Do you want to take it? Same as when Saki come. I could have said no. I'm going to stay with this, but it wasn't that I thought Saki or Plazabat is better or worse or whatever, an easier fight or a harder fight or whatever it may be. It's just I've been, if you'd have asked me any given time, who would you think is the pound for pound best kickboxer in the world? In your opinion, I would have said Gokhan Saki. So for me to have that fight against that guy, and I had 1000% belief that I could win that fight and I was going to win that fight. It would have been a dream come true to finish that fight the way I wanted to finish it. So now to fight somebody else, I'll fight anyone. I really don't care. If they offer me Badr Hari, I will take that fight. If they offer me Tank, I would take that fight. If they offer me Jafar Wilness, I take that fight. I've never been a guy to say no, and I always believe that, like, I want to give the fight the fans they want. They have Glory has an amazing matchmaker in Robbie Timmers. He knows how to make good fights. He's been around a long time. I know him personally over 20 years. He knows my style. He knows who we would stylistically match. And yeah, so I believe in the process. So whoever they tell me or ask me, James, do you want this fight this date? They know the answer. I don't have to even say it.
Fantastic. Well, there's some very big fights on the horizon there, and any one of those would be very, very exciting for the fans. I know that much. Obviously, it's not been long since you actually formally announced your retirement from MMA as well. So just moving over into the MMA side of things. Now, I know obviously there'd been that period of inactivity, but still, the actual formal announcement, if I'm not mistaken, was quite recent. So when it comes to sort of transitioning, fully from the MMA into the kickboxing, and you actually formally saying, my MMA career is over. Was that a difficult decision to come to? I mean, can you sort of walk us through the process that you personally went through? Maybe obviously the fans don't see. I mean, they see the announcement, they don't see the behind the scenes. Could you walk us through some of your emotions related to that decision, please?
Well, they kind of took my words in context. It wasn't like I was saying, yeah, I'll never fight MMA again. I don't think at this particular stage, I don't think I will, because when I got offered my Glory contract, I've done this before when when I was fighting MMA for one company, and then it was an open contract, so I could still fight kickboxing for another company, and I was able to pull that off and do that. But when you fight for a company like Glory or the UFC or ONE FC or KSW, for example, that's a very high level of each period of fighting, each stylistically of fighting. So to give Glory the respect that I do give them as being the highest level of K1 in the world, I can't multiple train. I can't be doing jiu-jitsu in the morning and then kickboxing in the evening, strength and conditioning in the afternoon, and like I normally do for MMA. I have to solely put my blinkers on and concentrate on kickboxing. These guys are doing that in kickboxing. They aren't training in different realms. So like myself, Alistair, even Gokhan Saki, we've been down the MMA road and we've been accomplished and fought for the best companies in the world. And we do know we have to train multiple bases. But by doing that, when you concentrate on jiu-jitsu so much, your kickboxing comes down a little bit. When you concentrate on kickboxing so much, your jiu-jitsu and your wrestling is going to come down a little bit. I wouldn't do that to Glory, and I wouldn't do that to anyone. I have a big passion, and I respect the sport of K1 and kickboxing. So for me, it'd be just why I'm contracted with Glory, which I hope is going to be for a long time. I'm just going to solely concentrate on kickboxing. So I haven't really at the end of the day as well, I feel like I've achieved, or I've tried to achieve, all the things that I wanted to in MMA. Some things I achieved, some things I fell short. I'm old enough and mature enough to say, hey, you know what? I gave it my best shot. I tried my best, and just wasn't in God's plan for me. It seems like God's plan has put me in K1 again. I've gone full circle, and I've started my career here, and maybe I'll end my career here. I don't know. And along that road, there's been many highs and lows in different realms, from Muay Thai, kickboxing, bare knuckle boxing, like you mentioned, MMA. I've fought in every single realm. So yeah, I just feel like that I have this opportunity with Glory. I really value it, and I want to give the fans the best me they possibly can. And they haven't seen that yet, and I still believe my next fight they will get a chance to see that.
Absolutely. Again, it's a brilliant insight into your mindset and things the fans don't see, which I definitely like to get into with these interviews. Now, we did also touch on bare knuckle boxing. Now, in a minute, I'm going to come back to the MMA, to a few things there. But first of all, you touched on the bare knuckle boxing there. And obviously, a couple of years ago now, you fought for Ken Shamrock's promotion, Valor. Is that something you plan to do again? Because obviously, I know your focus is very much on Glory, so maybe it's too soon to tell. And I totally hear you on giving it Glory 110%. So, this might be off topic. But obviously, if you look at how bare knuckle boxing has grown with obviously BKFC and some of these big companies now, something like that. Is it something that you're ever tempted, or you ever consider maybe for further down the road towards the end of your career? Or
Yeah, I fought for Ken Shamrock a couple of years ago. But early in my career, when I was back in England, when I was young, it wasn't in MMA back then. I was just in kickboxing and Muay Thai and trying to earn a living. I own a security company, so I used to do bare knuckle boxing then, a little bit on the side in the underground. Just to make money. Whenever I was short, I'd go and take a bare knuckle fight, which would be either a straight now, which is just your knuckles boxing, or what they call an all in, which means everything, headbutting, kicks, knees, bites, everything goes. So I used to kind of jump in and out of that in my younger days. I don't see me going back to that kind of bare knuckle boxing ever again. Thankfully, I think I'm a little bit too old in the tooth to do that. But yeah, it's hard to make that decision, to be honest, because I've never really had a passion for that style of fighting. It's not really like, oh, I love to have a bare knuckle fight. It's like, it's just not really like, I do love kickboxing. I do love MMA. And I have loved the whole process. I don't think I could ever say that I love bare knuckle boxing, and the fact of like, that was my, and I'm sure there are people out there that really do love it, and that's great. And everyone, they may not like kickboxing. Some people out there hate jiu-jitsu. There's some people out there that think the jiu-jitsu is this and it's that. They have different opinions, and they think MMA guys just hug each other, right? But it's usually kind of like, so everyone has a different opinion. So yeah, I can never say never, but at the moment right now, it's not my focus. It's not something that I'm passionate about. I see a lot of guys, when they're finishing their game and their names, they're getting offered good money and pay-per-view stuff for bare knuckle boxing. So they're tempted by dollars. Financially, I'm already independently have my own money, so I'm not fighting for money. I am fighting for money, but it's not like I'm living off that. I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. So I've had a successful career my whole life and businesses on the side. So I've been quite smart with my investments. So I don't think it would be a financial thing that would lure me into it. If anything, it would be a challenge. For myself, I've always been one about challenges. There was nothing really going on before. Ken Shamrock hit me up and said, "Oh, there's a great fight for you. I have this new show. It sounded great. It was going to be in this pit. It'd be some new style. You should try it." And I was like, "Okay, it sounds good. Let's do it." Got approved for one fighter, and then like a week before, yet again, my opponent pulled out, and then I got the monster that I got. Actually, it's terrible. I forget his name. Ex-UFC heavyweight, one of the biggest punches in the world. And yeah, so we had a bare knuckle fight, and that was it. But yeah, it's a process. I just don't think it's not in my eyesight right now. But hey, things change from day to day, so never say never, right?
That's it, never say never. But yeah, it's just a good one to get in there before we go back to the MMA. Some good tips for young fighters there as well about managing your investments well. I'm glad we got that in there. So some good content in there as well. Now, obviously, looking back over your MMA career as well as the kickboxing, the sort of toggle between the two with these, you've accomplished a great deal. Now, you've obviously fought all over the world against some of the best names, living legends of the sport, for the best promotions. But I do actually have a question here about the countries you fought in, because obviously when I was researching this, I knew it was a lot because I've personally followed your career a long time as well. But we've got obviously all around the UK, London, Manchester, all different places, Australia, different parts of America, Dubai, the Philippines, Russia, the Netherlands. I mean, it's insane. You've been all around, a lot more places. I've got a list here.
Actually, forget where I fought.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, and obviously, even when I'm looking at it now, you like Slovenia, Turkey, Belgium. I know some of this is kickboxing as well. But Poland, obviously, different. So it goes on and on. But out of those places, is there sort of a favorite place that you fought in terms of like the crowd, in terms of the welcome you've received, or in terms of any aspect that really sort of stands out? Because obviously you've traveled into all different places to compete, and that's MMA and that's kickboxing. Is there any that stand out for any particular reason as being, maybe the best energy in the crowd, or maybe the best welcome, anything that you remember as being on sort of top 5 or top 10, something like that?
It's an interesting question, actually. Yeah, I mean, the first time you get to fight in Vegas is always really, because that's like the kind of hub of MMA at the time. So my first time in the UFC fight in Vegas was at the MGM, and that was an awesome atmosphere, and be a part of the UFC because that's what you see on TV. That was fantastic. The American fans are very vocal, passionate, and they actually kind of like me, which was kind of strange because off the Ultimate Fighter show, I had a built-up rapport with them, so they embraced me very well. English fans are also very welcoming, and of course I'm from England, so they're in London, and they're also very. And I have the Dutch fans yet again. I can't say too much in my last fight because they were very Saki based. There's a lot of Turkish in the fan. There's like 37,000 people, and I don't think I've ever been booed so loud in all my life. But every different country has a different rapport of like when you fight in Asia, it's completely different. Yet again, they're kind of quiet, but they're very respectful, and they kind of watch the fights like almost in awe, like they don't want to miss a thing. Dubai was awesome because you had a really mixed crowd. Australia, very passionate. Poland was really cool, and that was really surprising actually. Poland probably stood out as one of the most surprising to me. Poland and Russia. I honestly thought I was going to go there and get a reception like I did in Holland. Like I did in Glory. And actually they were the opposite. They were really cheerful. Even though I was fighting a hometown hero or whatever, they were so like, they're just fight fans, right? It's in their blood, the Polish, the Russians. They just love the fights in general. So when they got a foreigner coming to their territory, to be honest, even after both those fights, they wanted to take me out for dinners and drinks, and all the fans are so respectful and cool. I fought in Holland a bunch of times, but they were smaller shows and always greeted pretty well. So I'm not going to judge the whole of Holland off of what happened in Glory. I know they're very Saki fans, and of course I laid the groundwork in the press conference as kind of the villain, because I was building the fight and challenging Saki verbally that he'd never had before. So it probably upset a lot of people. But that was kind of my job, right? My job is to mentally build the fight between me and him. And also, we're co-main event. You know, we're there to sell a fight as well. I want people to come and watch my fight. If it means they want to see me lose or they want to see me win, it doesn't really matter to me. It means that they're going to buy tickets. So that's what we really wanted to do. So everything that I said at the time was for a purpose. So I wasn't taking it personal. The fans were booing me or calling me or whatever. I had fans message me after the fight apologizing for booing me, and would I forgive them, which was pretty cool. I respect everyone. At the end of the day, when two people fight, there's always going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser, and Saki has a phenomenal following. Just like all the guys I fought over the years. When I fought Michael McDonald, the K1 champion of America, I was 97% polled to lose that fight. When I beat him, the crowd completely changed and was on my side. Before the fight, they were laughing at me. So if I would have beat Saki the other day, a couple of weeks ago, then crowd would have all been cheering my name. Like when Bader lost against the Polish guy, the Polish kid was being laughed at before that fight. I apologize, I don't remember his name. I can't pronounce it. Wojowski.
Yeah,
The Polish guy from Glory. I
yeah.
can't pronounce his name. He was being laughed at before that fight. Even when he got knocked down with body shots, the whole crowd were laughing at him. He pulls a kick off and knocks him out, and that just completely flipped 180. So as athletes, we don't take it too personal either way. I know I don't. I don't really mind either way. I'm always the villain most times anyway, so why not, make something of it? But every fan, every country has a different. But they're all pretty amazing. All pretty amazing. All for another. Vegas is great. Poland was cool. Russia was great. England's good. Holland is good. Dubai was great. Australia was really cool. Like I don't think I've ever met facially the things that people say to you online. I've never had that to my face. So it doesn't really happen with fans like it does on these outlets online, right?
Yeah, well, I can't blame them there, not saying it to your face, but no, it's a really good insight in, all over the world and at different places. It's amazing. And I think it's something people skip over because the sport is nothing without the fans. So definitely it's a good one to mention. Now, obviously, a very fan-friendly question here that always comes up pretty much every interview I do, but it's something people always want to hear about is obviously toughest fights. Now, I know obviously there's a lot of them in your career in MMA and kickboxing, and obviously we can cover both. Because this question I want to encompass, both sports. But obviously, and it's not just tough in terms of the hardest hitters or anything, because obviously some of these fights, they're like a chess game or whatever, and it's technical still, and it's other things as well. So just to put that in there, so it can be tough in any way, and not just in the one sort of limited sort of way. But that is the question, basically. I mean, what sort of stands out as the toughest fight? Maybe there's more than one. But in your own words, champ, let's hear about that one.
There's been a few tough fights, physically and mentally. How can you put it? I had a fight in Australia and my wife was with me, and we were actually pregnant at the time, and we lost the baby the night before the fight. So then I had to go out the next day and fight, after unfortunately we had a tragic loss, which was very hard for my wife and very hard for me, but more, I was up all night caring for my wife, and we were very, very upset. She was a few months pregnant, and we lost the baby. So that was a very tough mental fight, like, because I'm in Australia, right on the other side of the world. It's the night before the fight. I can't let people down. I have to do my job, but mentally I'm just not there. My mind's on something else. I actually still won that fight, believe it or not. I actually went out there and just took my frustrations out and blitzed him in about a minute, I think. But that's just some things that people don't really understand, right? Because you're very easily judged, right? We put ourselves as athletes on these platforms, and we're out there to be judged. We put ourselves out there. That's what we're there for: winning, for losing, whatever. But there's lots of things that go on behind the doors that just people won't know, and that's fine. We don't expect people to know. But it's just very easy for people to jump on the bandwagon and say, you suck, you're crap, you're this, you're that, and voice this negativity, when really they don't know what's going on in that person's life. There's lots of things that go on behind the closed doors, physically, mentally, injuries, God forbid, financial stress, like that situation, we lost a loved one, that can play a big part in your preparation or your mindset. And it just messes with you before, one of the biggest points, you've been training so hard for so long to build up to this pinnacle moment for this 15 minutes or whatever, however long the fight's going to be, and then last minute something just comes in and sticks a knife into your mind or into your body, and that's just something that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration before they voice their opinion on how good someone is or how bad someone is. I've gone through stages in my career where I've lost a few fights in a row, but I know what was going on in my personal life at that time. So that played a big part in it. And then there's other stages where I've gone on winning streaks, and I know what was going on in my personal life then too, which was all positive. So it's very easy to have a good day and a bad day, right? We all have good days and bad days despite what we do for a living. Specifically, that was one very tough time I had. I remember when I fought Roy Nelson in the house, the Ultimate Fighter house. I had trained with Roy the whole camp. I didn't know who Roy Nelson even was. I didn't know anything about MMA back then. I was brand new to the sport. And we were fighting in the semi-finals. And I had always pretty much teed him up in sparring in the gym. He wasn't nothing too. I went into that fight on the last day after being in the house for like 6 weeks or whatever it was. I was just so sick of being in that house. I just wanted to get out. I remember the coach come to saw me that morning and said, "Hey, you ready for the fight?" And I was like, "Let's just get this done so I can get the fuck out of it. I just want to leave. I haven't been around my family. I haven't seen my friends. I haven't been on the phone. I haven't read a book. I haven't listened to music. I haven't watched a movie for all this period of time. I've had 2 fights in 6 weeks. I've got 1 more right now. I've just had enough. I want to get out of it." And I went out into that fight acting cocky, never really act like that in my fights. Completely, when I watched the fight, I'm like, I didn't recognize that guy out there, and just wasn't really mentally there. Just want to get it over and done with so I can get out of there. And I guess that's probably why the Ultimate Fighter is quite challenging physically and mentally, because 3 fights in 6 weeks, it's tough. And yeah, I just wasn't mentally switched on for the last week. I wish someone would have recognized it and actually helped me get back on, but the coaching staff wasn't the best. But yeah, I just wasn't mentally switched on. So yeah, listen, you can sit here all day. I have so many different fights that could be tough. Saki was a tough fight, because we had a roller coaster. Who else? I fought the Japanese K1 champion, Takeru. We had a 3-round war. We tore my legs up. I tore his legs up. Actually, he couldn't walk after the fight. He had to get carried and put into a wheelchair and taken to hospital because of low kicks. So I know we've all had this realm. It's just a part of the game. But yeah, I honestly believe for a fighter, it's more mental is harder to deal with than physical. We're used to pain, right? We train all the time. It's a contact sport. We're kind of used to physical pain. Like now, I've got a broken nose, my leg's bad. I had a rib dislocated and rotated. I had to have that put back in place. But that doesn't really, I'm back to normal. It doesn't really affect you. But yeah, the mental side of the loss pisses you off, and then you want to get back and fight again as soon as possible and correct that feeling. Or even before a fight, like I said, something mentally can happen and your emotion is somewhere else, and that's the worst one, I think. Because physical, you can get past, you can get your brain to switch that over. But when the brain is not there and you're mentally not switched on, there's nothing else to redo that. You just go through the motions, and that's not what you need, especially at this high level.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really glad we got to get into that because it's something I actually aim for with these interviews, is to show fighters as people, you know, not just as these sort of tough fellas and obviously girls too who get in there and just tear it up, because obviously the fans see that, and that's actually something I aim for. So I'm really glad, and that's not a question, but I'm just really glad we got to get into that with such depth. And
Yeah,
I appreciate your openness.
I think sometimes with these platforms of social media and that nowadays, people forget, no matter what you do for a living, doesn't really matter. You know, you're still a human, right? We all make mistakes. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things, done things. We've had good days. We've had bad days. We've had great financial moments. We've had less financial minutes. We've losses in life. We're all just human people. And I think sometimes people just forget that. And sometimes when you're down, they can't wait to, you know, kick you a little bit more. And I think sometimes when you're up, they can't wait to hate on you a little bit more too. So it's just a shame that that's the way, I think, in the last 15, 20 years, life is going. I don't recall people ever seeing someone do well and say, oh, wow, he must have worked really hard to do that. They want to see you fall, and then when they see you fall, they see a little crack in the climb, they want to step in and say, you know, you're this, you're that, you're crap, you're this, or whatever. It's just a shame, but that's just how, unfortunately, how nature's gone nowadays. I think certain platforms have enabled that to happen, right? It's like people can actually say things without getting a smack in the mouth nowadays. So it enables them to do it and say these things from afar. I don't think that kind of stuff really affects me too much. I'm a little bit older, so I'm not really big into social media or care about it. It's not really been a big thing for me. I care more about being with my family and my businesses and so forth. But I do see the younger generation in my gym struggling with social media. And I think that's inbred a certain characteristic in people nowadays that I think, in my opinion, I could be, you know, it's just my opinion. I think it's allowed for certain people like this to exist and voice and be a certain way that's just not how we should treat other human beings.
Well, you know, Champ, I agree completely, to be honest. And it's very much been good to get your view on that, because I do actually agree completely. I mean, it's got pros and cons like everything, but I definitely think there's some major, you know, issues that need to be addressed with human behavior and how that's. I mean, we won't get too much into that today because we'll veer off into some very controversial territory. But I get where you're coming from, and I'm glad that obviously we've given that a mention. Now, obviously, with your MMA career, I know we're focusing on that a bit. We get back to the kickboxing now. Obviously, you mentioned at the very beginning about obviously achieving, or at the very least aiming for, you know, most of, if not all of what you wanted to do. And I know you said obviously some of it you fell short, some of it you achieved, and so on. But obviously with your MMA career, looking back on it now, and I know obviously there's these massive fights with Glory, and there's the future, which, you know, we will come back to in a minute. But looking at the MMA, what is the proudest moment in your MMA career? I mean, it might not be one moment. I mean, it might be more than one moment. But I've asked a lot of champions this question, and you know, you don't usually get the answer that you expect, which I think is very cool, you know, for the fans. Is there one moment that stands out as being the proudest, or maybe there's more than one, or something like that, specifically, you know, with the MMA side?
I think, to be honest, if you'd have asked me like a few years ago, I would have been saying like get to the UFC or fight for ONE FC or these big companies, which was cool. But to be honest, when I look back at it now, it was kind of like I didn't really choose to get into MMA. I was doing kickboxing. I had an opportunity to go to America, be a sparring partner, and then I got taken on as a coach at Greg Jackson's gym and I coached and trained and was in the corner for Rashad when he fought Forrest Griffin for the belt. Then when that finished, I just got the opportunity to go to the Ultimate Fighter House. I had done no real MMA experience at all. I was there as a striker I was the same kind of size as Forrest and stuff like that. So I just helped out for that training camp. And then I was meant to be going home. So I got the opportunity to go into MMA at the highest level. So to try and learn the sport at the highest level is very tough. But to be honest, I just got my head around, after I come out of the house, I realized wow, this is really a big opportunity. Even when me and the UFC parted ways, I still didn't, it was a low because it was like, damn, I got there and now I'm not there no more. But then I really took it as in like, you know what, I'm really going to take this opportunity and devote myself, and I'm going to get good at this. I'm going to get myself a new challenge. I didn't love this when I got into it, but now my ego is a little bit too pissed off that I've lost, and I really want to do something about it. So I really sat down and I kind of mapped it out. What do I need to do to get good at MMA? So, and I moved to Denver and I was out there wrestling, and then I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu. So I went to Las Vegas and worked with Robert Drysdale, one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in MMA in the world. And that's what I did. I just locked it down and just trained and devoted myself and took myself out of a comfort zone of kickboxing and put myself in a very uncomfort area. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. And I have a lot of respect for the people that take themselves out of comfort zones. I respect people like Alistair Overeem and Gokhan Saki that have stepped out of being like in Pride, for example, and doing great in MMA. And then Alistair stepped into K1 and then did great in K1 and stepped back into MMA and got in the UFC and did fantastic. Gokhan Saki was doing amazing in K1 and stepped into MMA, because you've really got to go from being the big fish in the pond to being now the little fish in the sea. And like, then you've really got to humble yourself and you've really got to work hard to succeed and drive. And now I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu and I've been doing MMA 15 years. Actually, was it, 13 years. So I did that. I went from being, doing well in one realm. I said, no, now I'm going to put myself on the bottom of the totem pole and I'm going to try and work myself up to be good at this realm. And I did that. So I think I don't think fighting for a certain company is the pinnacle of your career. I think if you look at it as a personal achievement, not everyone could be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Not everyone can reach these top MMA companies and fight and win fights. So to do that with really starting from scratch, I'm quite proud of myself that I achieved that.
Very much. I knew that would be a good answer, but that's really something. You're into the deeper side of it now. So the last couple of things, obviously, because you're good for time and everything, because we've gone sort of in depth with this. So the last couple of things to talk about here now is obviously, I'm actually going to ask, this one's a simple one because it's basically the same sort of question, but this is instead about the kickboxing, because obviously the kickboxing is obviously your primary passion. Obviously, I know you've won all these titles and you've competed for K1, you've competed in Muay Thai, you've competed in the Dutch style, all these different things. And it's something you're very passionate about. Now, I believe, obviously, what we were saying earlier, the best fights are yet to come for you in kickboxing. There's these massive fights for glory. I believe that. But at the same time, it's sort of, I'm trying to toggle with looking back and looking forward, because, there's cool things in the rear view and ahead of you. But in the same vein as what we were saying with the MMA, I mean, your kickboxing career, proudest moments, basically the same question. What stands out for that in terms of the kickboxing career? Because it is an incredible journey you've been on. And even when I was researching this, obviously leaving the UK at a young age to compete, working your way up, winning these different titles, different styles of kickboxing, obviously. So the same sort of thing, proudest moments, maybe it's not one moment, maybe it's the journey itself, but in your own words, champ, what stands out to you as being, you're most proud of with your kickboxing side of things?
I think just, I was just, when I got in the kickboxing in London, I'm from a small little city called Sippenham. I'm from a little town outside of London, it's like 15 minutes from Windsor. It's very low income, normal, working class people, So I think to get to the big stage in kickboxing, and I mean, the first time I hit the big stage was when I fought Michael McDonald in London. I was meant to fight Mirko Krokop, and then Mirko got beaten by McDonald, and I ended up to have to fight McDonald. And that was in Wembley Arena, my hometown, London being my home place. And that was a huge, because I was like fighting in front of 15,000 people. I was the huge underdog of 97% people said I was going to get murdered. And then I didn't just beat him, but I absolutely bashed the hell out of him. I knocked him down numerous times and actually finished him. We had a 3-round war, very tough fight. But yeah, then it just went from stepping stone to stepping stone. And then like literally being away from K1 for so long, I was in MMA doing my thing. And then like 2017, my friend just called me, one of my students, his name is Atakan, just called me on a Tuesday, and I was in Thailand, and said, hey, coach, can you come and fight for us? I've had an opponent pull out. And I said, yeah, when is it? And he's like, Saturday. And I was like, this Saturday? And he's like, yeah. I said, it's Tuesday. I'm in Thailand. He said, yeah, it's this Saturday. He said, but it's a K1 fight. And I was like, come on, man. I haven't fought K1 in like 11 years. Like, I've been doing kickboxing for MMA, but it's not the same as fighting K1. And he's like, yeah, the guy's an Iranian champion or something. Come on, it'd be a good fight. You know, come on, please, you can do it. I was like, okay, book the flight. So I flew straight there, landed there on like Thursday morning, fought on Saturday, and I knocked him out. And then it just went on from there. Then I went and fought, Daniel Ilonga, who was the number 2 in the world for Glory at the time, never been knocked out. And then I knocked him out. So then the K1 road restarted. So it was, I think that achievement for like being away for so long and then just getting back into it kind of seamlessly and beating good high level guys. And then now I'm back in Glory, is yet again, it's another achievement that I'm a very, very big believer in it. If I'm a little bit psychotic, I think, like I repeat things in my mind all the time. Like I'll tell myself, I'm going to get in Glory. I'm going to get in Glory. I'm going to be in Glory. I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to beat Rico. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And like, I will just repeat it until I every single day over and over again in training, treadmills, walking my dog. If I can't sleep at night, I'll just repeat it. I'll write it down. I'll just keep writing it and writing it and writing it, like doing lines like at school. I'm a little bit crazy. And I feel like when I put that stuff out there and I verbalize it, it's always happened for me in my life. It's always happened. I was in talks with Glory for a couple of years before Glory happened, and it never happened. And then with some help of Alistair and just the right time, the right place, staying in the industry and taking the right fights and beating the right people, I got the opportunity, and that's just how it is. And I think that's another achievement yet again, is that, like, you know, how many when I fought Gokhan Saki, it was my 41st birthday that day. So how many people can say at 41 you just signed with Glory and took on one of the best kickboxers in the world in front of 37,000 people? If I would have put that out there in the atmosphere 5 years ago, people would say, that would never happen. Never in a million years would you do that. 41, you should be retired. You're useless. You're past your best. You're this, you're that. And then bang, I did it. And I'm still doing it. And I'm not past my best. And I'm not the average 41-year-old. And I don't perform like the average 41-year-old. I'm not slow. I'm not broken or beaten up. I'm not slow talking. I don't have punch drunk syndrome for the amount of fights I've had. And so, you know, I honestly believe that it's all about those kind of achievements. If you lay that stuff out there for you and you believe it and you repeat it and you verbalize it. So that's another achievement again. Personal achievements rather than, like, I don't know, fake achievements that, you know, you want to tell, I want $1 million. I want a Ferrari. That's not, they're achievements, but I don't think that's hard to do. It's not that hard to have a nice car. It's not that hard to make money. I think there's harder things in life. Success is a period of time. Happiness. I'm very happy in my life. I think that's a huge achievement. I have a beautiful family, a beautiful wife and a daughter that mean everything to me. And I'm very successful in that realm. And to be honest, if I had a choice out of all the realms I could choose, whether I have all the money in the world and fight for the biggest companies or have my wife and daughter, I would choose my wife and daughter hand over fist any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Because in my opinion, that's warranted and worth more than anything else can be in life. Not saying that fighting for a big company is not cool and having a nice car and a load of money is cool. That is really cool, but it's not the same. It's not the same. So that achievement there, I think, is probably my greatest.
Some powerful lessons in there, you know, champ. There's some really, really powerful life lessons in there. There's so many things you said, from the positive affirmations to obviously, you know, valuing what really matters. There's some really, really good, solid stuff in there, which is obviously, funny enough, leads to the next question, which is one of the last ones, really, is obviously, you mentioned about training, coaching, you know, young fighters, you know, the next generation, all of that sort of thing. Now, obviously, when it comes to advice for the young fighters, obviously, I know there's a lot of people who train, they can come and work with you, they can do all these things. But obviously, with this interview having sort of a bigger reach and you're getting out there, what would be sort of 2 or 3 things that you would give to advice? Like, if there's young fighters watching this, they want to succeed, whether it be, you know, they're teenagers or whatever, and they're amateurs still, and they're just getting going with, they're just turning over in the pro game, you know, but they haven't got there yet, but they have their eyes on the prize for, you know, for doing some big things in that realm. Obviously, you've given some really solid life advice just now, like not just for fighting, but for all of life, which I think is awesome. I think that's really good value in that for a lot of people. Honing in on succeeding in the fight game and doing well, obviously, because I know the best is yet to come, but obviously you've achieved a lot. What would be sort of 2 or 3 things you'd say if, like, if there's any young fighters watching this, they're not directly connected to you, but obviously they can still soak up some of your advice? What would be, you know, 2 or 3 ingredients for them?
Well, what I tell my fighters in my gym, especially the young guys, I think nowadays it's very easy to fool people and pretend you're something that you're not. It's very easy on social media to say, you know, you've got a beautiful car because you took a picture next to it. It's very easy to say you're a tough guy fighter because you're in the gym all looking all sweaty in some ragged clothes, or you've sparred and you're a little bit bloody and say you're a killer. Back in the olden days, or the older days when we were young, that stuff didn't exist. You know, it didn't. So my advice to the guys is that don't get caught up in that stuff too much. Don't get caught up in the social media too much. Really work on training your mind to be mentally strong. Give yourself, you know, allow people to call you crazy. Let people don't fit in with everyone else. Don't fit in with the crowd. No, skip the party, skip the drink, going to the pub and the bar and all this stuff. That will all be there for you when you're older. Bars and drinks and alcohol ain't going nowhere. Girls ain't going nowhere. They're always going to be around eventually. Just if you're really serious about, no matter what you want to be in life, right? Whether it's a fighter, or whether you want to be in business, whatever it may be, but just take the time that you have and just dedicate the shit out of it to whatever you want to be and beyond. That, you know, if you just really zone that in, because time goes so fast. And being an older guy now that older guy, which sucks. Time has gone like that. Like some of the fights you're talking about, it's if they were just yesterday. And there's some fights I don't even remember they were that long ago. So it's really weird how fast time has gone. So training, really, if you're going to do it, be there early. Do it 110%. You know, don't complain. And just put in the work, and you'll always be successful. And second of all, like we talked about earlier, positive affirmations. Give yourself mental affirmations. I tell my fighters to set an alarm on their phone every 3 hours. And when that alarm goes off, they have to repeat 10 different things to themselves every day, 7 days a week. Every day when that alarm goes off, they've got to answer it, and it's just read off. They've got to read it to themselves or out loud, whatever it is that they want to be, or whatever they want to achieve, or whatever. It could be, you know what, I'm not going to be rude to people. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be very polite. I'm going to pray to God on this day or this hour, or read off, I'm a world champion. I'm going to be this. Whatever your affirmation is, or whatever you want to be, I get them to do it. So yeah, those 2 things in my work ethic is first and foremost, and then second of all is just self-belief. Regarding whatever you want to be, a good husband, you want to be a good father, good wife, mother, whatever you want to be a good fighter, be a good artist, be a soccer player, I don't know, whatever you want to be, like yourself, good journalist, whatever you're going to be. People say, oh yeah, but you just got a podcast, and yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. I was an apprentice mechanic once when I was young. Oh, you're just security. You're just a thug. You're never going to be nothing. No, it's okay. You don't know my dreams. I know my dreams, because you don't listen to everyone else. Don't fit into the crowd. You got to go your own route. Don't be scared of being on your own. It's a very lonely sport, a very lonely world sometimes. Be the shepherd. Don't be the sheep.
Again, Champ, honestly, some powerful lessons there, and obviously that gives so much value to people. And as you say, not just in the fight game, but for life as well. You know, obviously today, I mean, we've talked about some quite a bit of stuff, and hopefully, obviously, we've run through all of the different aspects of your fight career. I know you've had too many fights to talk about them all, but we've managed to get the MMA in there, the kickboxing in there, obviously the bare knuckle, everything else. Managed to give some lessons for life, training, different things, you know. So really, you know, the thing for me to say is obviously a big thank you for your time, because I know we've gone in depth.
Pleasure.
And I know we've gone obviously a little bit longer, but that's a good thing, because we've gone really in depth into some brilliant stuff. Obviously, to all the fans out there, keep an eye on this man. There's some big fights happening with Glory, obviously, and the future is bright. So I really believe that. I'm not just saying that. I mean, I know there's some absolutely cracking fights out there, but yeah, champ, I just want to say obviously a big thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, mate.
You too.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.